those who don't know, last year I donated to an Indiegogo campaign for a new film written by Brad Jones and directed by Ryan Mitchell called Jesus Bro. Another fan who donated to that movie's campaign was my very awesome grandfather, who I call Guy. And after months of waiting as the film went through its filming, editing, and final stages, Jesus Bro has finally been released. And as soon as possible, me and my grandfather plan to do a review of Jesus Bro, see where our money went. And just for clarification, Jesus Bro is a parody film, kind of like Airplane or The Naked Gun. It parodies all the modern day Christian faith films that have been coming out in the past couple of years. And before me and Guy get into our review of the latest film, I thought I would do a mini review covering some of the movies that Brad has either talked about or is parodying for Jesus Bro. And after explaining all that and making sure I was appropriately dressed, let's get into it. The movies I'm going to talk about today are both from 2014. They follow up on the films I reviewed for my last mini review on Christian cinema. Both movies were contenders for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, and Worst Screenplay at the Razzies. One film won all of them over the other, and both movies are endorsed by the Duck Dynasty people. The first movie up is 2014's Left Behind. Starring an actor who is 2 out of 3 times decent, Nicolas Cage. People have said that the Nicolas Cage version of Left Behind is actually worse than the Kirk Cameron movies from almost 20 years ago. And after seeing the Kirk Cameron movies, I just wondered, how could this be worse? Well, I saw it and it is. I said the Kirk Cameron movies were lame and dull, which they are, but the films were still, on some levels, laughably bad, in just how absurd and outrageous the writing and storytelling was, and just the embarrassing attempts at acting made by everyone in those movies minus Louis Gossett Jr. The Nicolas Cage version is even more lame and dull, and it doesn't even have any absurd, so bad it's funny moments to enjoy. It's a rapture movie that's about an hour and 50 minutes long, and the rapture doesn't happen until about 30 minutes in. And everything that's leading up to it and everything that comes after is just long and slow. Now, this is a Christian movie, but for the most part, the religious side of it kind of takes a back seat, and the movie becomes more or less a disaster movie. Most of the film focuses on Nicolas Cage's character, an airline pilot named Ray Steele, trying to fly a plane to safety after all the other pilots are raptured. And how is Nick in this? Nicolas Cage can act, and he has done some amazing movies and has given powerful performances in them. Even in bad movies, he has at least put in an effort that, if not good, has come out as entertaining. Here, however, this is the first time I have honestly thought Nicolas Cage sucked in a movie. He is just horrible in this. He almost never emotes, and in the scenes where he does, it's just so awful and pathetic, and everything about him gives you the impression that he just did not give a fuck, and not in the good sense. He just looks and feels so dead throughout this film, it's kind of depressing. And the other movie, which in a funny way is actually connected to the Left Behind movies, is Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. Executive produced by and starring the clown prince of Christian propaganda himself, Kirk Cameron, and co-written by, co-directed by, and also co-starring former music video director Darren Doan. And at 79 minutes, it actually feels just as long as the Nicolas Cage Left Behind movie. The story, if you can even fucking call it that, is about Kirk Cameron talking with his brother-in-law, who feels that Christmas has lost its biblicalness and has become too commercialized with lights, trees, and Santa Claus. And Kirk explains how Christmas trees, lights, Santa Claus, or Santa Christ if you will, are all very biblical. And what he explains is so fucking insane that this movie should be put in the porn section under insanity fetish. This movie is so crazy, it feels like something that David Lynch would jerk off to. And so I don't leave you hanging, guessing about just how crazy this movie is, here's an example of one part of the film. The brother-in-law, played by Darren Doan, says that he hates snow globes that portray the nativity scene. And Kirk Cameron, in a very confusing, non-linear way that makes absolutely no sense to me, justifies the snow globe with the nativity scene in it by talking about the swaddling cloth, as he calls it, that Jesus was wrapped in. It's weird, just he talks about Jesus and the swaddling cloth, and apparently how the cloth is super important, and even if Jesus wasn't there, the cloth would still be there. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it was so hard to understand just what the fuck was going on. And all the while that was happening, we see some kinda animated version of soldiers slaughtering babies. And after all this is explained about this cloth, we cut back to Kirk and Darren, and he's like, wow. And he pretty much fucking agrees. And then they go through the motions with Kirk correcting Darren's character on a whole bunch of stuff like the Christmas tree and Santa Claus, which he connects to Adam and Eve and goes into the history, I guess, of Saint Nick. And then Darren's character becomes all happy and festive and just gets into the commercialization feeling that I feel like this movie is pushing. And then the movie stretches out its remaining time with a dance-off music number and bloopers playing over the end credits. Both movies are fucking terrible. Left Behind with Nicolas Cage is just a long, boring, depressing piece of shit. Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas is so awful that I honestly don't have anything else to say about it. The only thing I will say is to director, co-writer, and co-star Darren Doan, Tommy Wiseau is a better filmmaker than you.